right, let's take a look at the clicker questions for Chapter 1, Picturing Distributions with Graphs. Airport administrators take a sample of airline baggage and record the number of bags that weigh more than 75 pounds. What is the individual? The individual is each piece of baggage. Each piece of baggage is the thing that we're gathering data on. In a study of commuting patterns of people in a large metropolitan area, respondents were asked to report the time they took to travel to their work on a specific day of the week. What is the individual? The individual is each person. Each person is who we're gathering data on. In a study of commuting patterns of people in a large metropolitan area, respondents were asked to report the time they took to travel to their work on a specific day of the week. What is the variable of interest? The variable of interest is the time traveled. The travel time is the data that we're collecting about each person. Is the variable monthly rainfall in Michigan a categorical or quantitative variable? It's a quantitative variable. Monthly rainfall is a numerical piece of data, and it would make sense to add monthly rainfalls to get a yearly rainfall. So this is quantitative data, quantitative variable. If we asked people to report their weight, would that variable be considered a categorical or quantitative variable? Weight is a quantitative variable. Again, it's a numerical piece of data, and it would make sense to add several weights together. We ask people whether their weight is underweight, normal, overweight, or obese. Is this variable categorical or quantitative? Underweight, normal, overweight, and obese are not numerical data, so this is categorical data, categorical variables. A survey involving 35 questions was given to a sample of 200 students attending a university with an enrollment of 10,000. How many individuals do the data describe? The data describes the 200 students sampled. In this same survey involving 35 questions, how many variables do the data contain? Each of the 35 questions is a variable, a source of information about each individual. What type of data is produced by the answer choices for this question? We have answer choices never, once or twice, 3 or 4 times, and more than 4 times. This is categorical. It seems like numbers, but we wouldn't add these results. We also have choices like more than 4 times. For data involving answers to the following question, what is the best method of displaying the data? Again, we have categorical data. The only representation here for categorical data is the bar graph. The others would represent quantitative. The purpose of pie chart and bar chart is to help the audience grasp the distribution of the data quickly. Married respondents in a survey were asked how they met their spouse. According to the bar chart below, how many respondents met their spouse through a dating service? If we look at the bar that represents dating service and look at the frequency, we see that the bar goes almost up to the 30. Bar graphs are more flexible than pie charts. Both graphs can display the distribution of a categorical variable, but a bar graph can also compare any set of quantities that are measured in the same units. That's true, as we saw in the last image. Our bars did not necessarily sum to 100, but a pie chart always sums to 100%. Quantitative variables. Look at the following histogram of salaries of baseball players. What shape would you say the data take? Well, there's a tail here, and the tail is pointing to the right-hand side. This is a right skewed histogram. More information is on the left side. Less information is on the right side. We call that right skewed. Looking at the following histogram of percent urban population in 50 US states, what shape would you say the data take? The data has a slightly bimodal shape, but it has more of a tail. And that tail, the side with less information is forming a tail, and that tail is pointing to the left. So this is a left skewed graph, left skewed histogram. Considering this histogram, about how many students in the survey paid more than $250 for textbooks? So we want to take a look at where 250 is on this graph, and then count the bars. Sum each height of each bar above 250. So we have about 30 plus about 20, that's about 50, plus about 10 more, that's about 60. So we're over all the choices. It's got to be that 71. What three features can best describe the overall pattern of a histogram? When talking about a histogram, we look for shape, center, and spread. In the data set represented by the following stem plot, how many times does the number 28 occur? Given that the leaf unit is 1. If we look at the stem 2, representing 20s, and we look at the leaf on the 2 row, the leaf is an 8. We have 1, 2, 3 8s on the row with the 2 as the stem. So 3 28s are represented in this stem plot. What is the advantage of histograms over stem plots? The data set can be any size. A stem plot can be drawn, but you wouldn't want to draw it for data sets probably larger than 25. But we saw a histogram, and in one bar alone, we had a frequency of 30. What's the advantage of stem plots over histograms? That would be that the actual data can be extracted from them. In the stem plot, we could see how many people scored a 28. In the histogram, we didn't know the exact scores of the 30 people represented by the bar. We just knew they were in that range somewhere. Which of these plots is a time plot? A time plot has time plotted on the x-axis. Plot A has the time plotted on the x-axis. What type of trend does the following time plot show? Looking from the left to the right, we can see that the graph is moving in an upward trend. What would the correct interpretation of the following graph? What would be the correct interpretation of the following graph? Well, this has kind of a cyclical relationship, right? It goes up, it goes down. It doesn't do either in the long run. So the data shows seasonal variation. An individual value that falls outside the overall pattern is called an outlier.